Every once in a while, I like to browse Steam and find games that I've never heard of before. Games that I wondered if there ever was an audience for this. Most of the time, I might find one that's considered a cult classic. Other times, it's just some garbage that gives me a good laugh for about 5 minutes before I get my refund. One day, when Steam was having a sale on mystery games, I noticed that a good amount of these games had anthro-animal people, but one of them stood out to me. Blacksad Under the Skin. The screenshots for the game are just a sight. Oh yeah, look at that one. And the game was also on sale, so I would lose nothing if it turned out to be terrible. So I bought the game, loaded it up, and was greeted with something that I could not put on YouTube, but let's say that somebody was hanging about. But Kagi, I hear you ask, is this a furry game? Yes, but Kagi, I also hear you ask, what even is Blacksad? Oh boy, let me tell you. Blacksad was originally a comic series featuring our cat detective, John Blacksad, created by Spanish creators Juan Diaz-Canales and Juanjo Guarnido. Despite being created by two Spanish creators, the audience was, oddly enough, the French. So the series was originally written in French, with a Spanish version coming out about a month after. Over time, the series has been translated into various languages and was then made international. The series started in the year 2000 and has been nominated for 3 Eisner Awards in 2004 and won 2 Eisner Awards in 2013. The series is a noir detective story with anthro-animals, each to reflect their own personality, I guess? There are certain tropes that the series hits on, with police officers mostly being dogs, probably because of the canine unit or something, which is the only example that I noticed. The comics may have more, but I do not read the comics. The setting takes place in the 1950s in New York, and through different volumes end up tackling various themes such as racism and racial segregation, the Red Scare, and economic depression. Blacksad Under the Skin is the video game released in 2019 by Pendulo Studios, where we play as Blacksad. Obviously, he monologues as per the standard noir detective and gets beat up a lot. The game describes itself as an interactive mystery game. You're gonna have bits of dialogue that you have to respond to, or you can choose to remain silent. And during action sequences, you are given quick time events to not fucking die. It's actually really hard to talk about a mystery game and the story without spoiling the mystery. And that's the whole point of it. You want to find out who done it, what happened along the way. But the intro actually sets things in motion rather well. Joe Dunn was found hanging in his gym and something seems up. His daughter, Sonia, comes by to explain everything to us and lets us know that Joe Dunn is dead and Bobby Yale is missing soon after. Bobby has a fight that he has to participate in, and if he doesn't show up, then Sonia has to pay a fine, which she cannot afford, and since she can't afford the fine, she'd have to close the gym she inherited from her father. Our goal is to find Bobby Yale so Sonia doesn't have to pay a fine, but something's not sitting right with us. As we investigate the scene, we come to a few conclusions that Joe Dunn might not have taken his own life, but instead might have been murdered. Throughout the game, you'll find bits of clues, people of interest to talk to, and over time, you'll start to get an idea of what's going on. The story evolves from a missing person story to a mafia-run gambling ring to a murder mystery that involves corruption within the sports industry, and it's a wild ride. Each twist and turn had me hooked. As you get a new clue, eventually you might be able to link 2 of them together through this deduction phase where you enter this black void and you go into the reaches of your own mind, only to return to the world with new information and who the hell are you? The best part of this game, in my opinion, is that your actions help determine the outcomes of who lives, who dies, and who gets arrested. These also end up affecting your stats for your own Blacksad shown here. Are they talkative or are they silent? Are they sensitive or are they hard-boiled? Are they a loner or are they rather romantic? Each action gets reflected here and saves after each point, which makes it kind of disappointing that there's no separate save file, so if you start a new game just to see how things would be different, then you would erase everything leading up to that point. So as I mentioned, the game takes place in New York in the 1950s, after the Great Depression and World War II. We're living out the noir detective fantasy of living in this bustling city as a catman who is down on his luck with a deceased lover.
Now that's New York.
At first I wondered what's even the purpose of anthro-animals, and figured it might have been something more cute and quirky, you know? Sometimes, Blacksad senses come into play where I just go, oh, so that's why he's a cat. As you'd have moments where your sense of smell, your sense of sight kinda get heightened on investigation and interrogations, where you can just notice a few things such as somebody's heart rate has increased, somebody smells odd, and I figured maybe this is why he's a detective, maybe this plays into his personality. I still don't know, I'm just making guesses. On top of that, I don't know what I can really tell you about the setting that you wouldn't read in history books. I mean, it's New York, there's racism, there's the Irish Mafia. Well, I guess it's not really the Irish Mafia, it's just a mob boss who is also Irish. Does that make it the Irish Mafia? It was pretty funny finding this painting of Jesus, and it's a lion, so I guess Jesus is a lion here? Now, I've not read the comics, but what I do find a bit odd is the fact that I don't always get why someone is a certain species. Sure, I can understand why dogs would be cops and why Blacksad is a cat, for the most part. But I don't know why this guy is a rhino or why this guy is a buffalo. Sometimes it feels that someone's a species of animal just because they are, and I'm not sure why it's the case. I don't usually see what personalities of theirs would warrant that to be their species. I can see one character who's a bulldog and could anticipate them to be more angry, and there is an achievement called Say No to Bullying, because you know, bulldog, bullying. But other times, I just get something I wouldn't normally expect, like, why is this moose a Texan? Are there any moose in Texas? I had to do a double take after meeting this guy, because I could have sworn there aren't any moose in Texas.
Down in Texas, we got them damn Catholics from Mexico. But sure as hell, there's a way to deal with it all.
I will say though that it's surreal to me seeing animal-like male characters and not as animal-like female characters. Why does this lady look the way she does when her dad looks like this? Is it meant to appeal to people who aren't of the animal persuasion? Why she got some thick lips like that? Why she have a fat ass? Why doesn't she look more like her bobcat dad? Is this what people find sexy, or is it just me? Racism also exists in this universe, but I don't get it. It's one hell of a fucking segue. I found this spray painted on some lockers with a very obvious racial slur towards black people, and I wondered what counts as black in this universe, after thinking, wow, I can't believe they actually put this in the game. Until I learned one of the names on the locker is the gorilla friend of yours, and I was actually shocked by this. They really made the gorilla a black guy. Is that it? Is that what counts as black in this universe? Then what's white? People who aren't gorillas? Well, that's not entirely true, because we learn very quickly who spray painted the slur, and it was a member of a white supremacist, you heard me right, a white supremacist group called Arctic Nation, and we have a picture of this group, and it's all these animals with a white fur. And then it clicked. Jake isn't black because of his species. He's black because of his fur color, because all the members of Arctic Nation are white because of their fur, which also means that Blacksad is a black character because of his fur. And suddenly, it all starts to make sense, except when it doesn't. The victim in this crime is this bobcat with orange fur, but he's described as a white boy.
He played the saxophone, right?
Yeah, pretty well for a white boy.
And he doesn't have white fur, so I don't get it. Where do you draw the line? Do you have to have white fur to be a part of Arctic Nation? What if a person of Arctic Nation doesn't have white fur but orange fur? What if a member of Arctic Nation had a child with orange or brown fur? What if people just dyed their fur white? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. You'd think it would be some sort of speciesism, right? Like cats don't like dogs, or elephants are terrified of mice, something like that. But we don't get that. The only kind of speciesism we get is when Blacksad, a mammal, comments on the distrust society has for reptiles. When we find one later, they say that the problem isn't the distrust, but the fact that the distrust is natural, which is funny, because Blacksad seems anti-racist earlier, but mentions this later on. What the fuck? Blacksad moves with tank controls, and I feel like we as a civilization can just move on from this type of movement. Because it just sucks. It's kind of bothersome to move about, especially when you have to stand at certain positions at the right angles to get a prompt to investigate an item. It's essentially a pixel hunt, and it never ends up being really fun when you have to walk around everywhere trying to remember where everything is at the slow speed that Blacksad moves. This game would really benefit from a detective vision, where things would light up for you to investigate and you'd get clues based on that, rather than having to walk about and hope you just find the clue in the right place. We don't get that, so instead I have to walk about the whole place hoping I end up getting everything that I could get. There's also no run or jog button, so Blacksad gets to walk everywhere with his relatively slow and clunky movements, and look at this walk animation. He is swaying back and forth. That is some swagger. This does get a bit annoying, especially at later moments when you have a time limit to find what you need, and if you're too late, then too bad, you gotta try again. This is actually kinda graphic. Now you might have noticed through some of these clips that these symbols are appearing on screen. What does this mean? It means my controller keeps disconnecting and reconnecting soon after, and this is the most frustrating part for me. I don't know why this happens, but it happens randomly and only with this game. I'm using an Xbox Series X controller, and it's connected via Bluetooth to my PC, and I'm getting these problems. Whenever I looked about for this issue, I found nothing. Nothing. I seem to be the only one with this issue because no one else is talking about it. I've seen the devs mention plugging in a controller, so maybe you want to use a wired controller instead of a Bluetooth one? It sucks. It just sucks, especially when the game recommends that you use a controller instead of the mouse and keyboard controls. And it doesn't help that when I looked up the mouse and keyboard controls, everyone said that it's not really the best. So guess I gotta use a controller that disconnects during the most tense moments of the game. That's the other thing. It disconnects during the tense QuickTime events where I can get killed. It's like it knows, it's like it plans this out, and I hate this so much. This alone affects my experience of the game. I could probably forgive parts of the tank controls, I could forgive parts of the pixel hunts, but this is so infuriating. I don't know what causes this bug. I don't know if they're ever going to fix this bug. The last update for this game was back in 2020, so I guess I'm just gonna sit here like a jackass having this issue because everyone's using a wired controller and I'm using a Series X controller. Let's imagine for a moment that you are Blacksad. So you're sneaking about and you hear the mafioso you're investigating in the other room and he has someone captured. You hear him monologue and the guy is rather scared. You have two choices. You can choose to stay quiet or you can intervene and help. Now, if you try to help, what would you do? Maybe you would make some noise, create a distraction. Maybe you'd have a gun on you. So what does Blacksad decide to do?
O'Leary, the police have surrounded you.
You don't need to worry about that.
What? That's it? So you stay hidden and you make your way out. There's a guard standing outside with a shotgun and you have ways to get away from there. You could choose to hide. So what happens if you pick that option?
What you got?
Oh cool, I got shotgunned in the back. Well, what do you have to do?
What? Just where do you think you're going, putty cat?
You have to get caught. I picked an option that made me believe I failed, but when I picked this, it then moved on because this was apparently the right option. Great detective work. Okay, last one. You got someone who's going to shoot you on sight. You found a way to sneak about and you can get the jump on them. So you get to the roof and now you have the option to attack. What, you thought it was gonna work? No, you dumbass. You can't just jump on him like that. What were you thinking? You gotta go back, you gotta climb a ladder, and get a goddamn riot shield. How was I supposed to know this was up here? Why would I think, oh yeah, maybe I need to get a riot shield before I get the jump on him? Maybe if I didn't growl or make loud noises while jumping on him, maybe then he wouldn't shoot me on sight. I really don't know what this is, but it's honestly just too fucking funny. You'd think there'd be multiple branching paths, and there could be, but in these cases, you'd just have these moments where you think of something smart, and then it goes horribly wrong, and you can't help but sit back and wonder, huh? What? And you have to ask, why would you even do that? What neurons in your head decided to connect to give you the epiphany that that was what you had to say and what you had to do? Blacksad is a fundamentally flawed game. I wish I could like it more, but the gameplay is rather lacking. If it was more like a visual novel or a point-and-click adventure game, then it probably would have been a lot more favorable, but the tank controls and pixel hunt isn't really a good design choice. Which is a shame because the game has a lot of charm and I really like the story. I'm kinda also vibing with the setting, maybe I'll start reading the comics at some point. But it's no wonder I haven't heard about this game until I found it on sale. This very much feels like a game made for fans of the comic series and not somebody like me who found this out of nowhere and only got to experience it through this. That being said, while I did enjoy my time with the game, I cannot really say that I enjoyed it enough that I would recommend other people to check the game out. I'm not opposed to future Blacksad games because this does have a lot of backstory to it, and if Pendulo Studios or somebody else were to make another one, and if they do, then I hope they improve upon what they have currently with Under the Skin. Should you try this game? Maybe if it's on sale, I guess. Hey everyone, thanks for watching the video. If you liked this video, then consider subscribing to my channel and liking the video. And if you like this, then consider watching some of the other videos on this channel. Leave a comment below if you're a fan of Blacksad and tell me which comic I should start off with. Thank you again everybody, take care, and remember that I appreciate you.